What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan with Astrodfs, bringing you a brand new video. Today's video, I'm going over some early week one bets to look out for. Now, closer we get, lines are going to move up or down depending on which side starts to get more money in bets on. And the first one is the first game of the season for me, and that's the Lions and Chiefs. So I got the bet in early. You can still get it here on DraftKings. If you look, I'm just using Vegas Insider. There's a lot of websites you can go on that will compare odds on all these sites. But on DraftKings, I got it at 53.5. It's still there on DraftKings. And granted, you can go on some of these sites and you get 54.5 like FanDuel if you like the under. But I like the over at 53.5. If you like I said, if you have DraftKings, some of the books are at 54. FanDuel is the only one that's at 54.5. So point move on that website. And let's just go over kind of what I see. So I would have liked this a lot more if Jameson Williams didn't have his suspension. But for Detroit's offense, they still have their really good offensive line. They add Marvin Jones Jr. They get Sam Laporta to replace T.J. Hockenson, which I think is a pretty good add in my opinion. Their running back room is totally revamped. It's now Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, who I think is a really good 1-2 punch. I think they might be a slight upgrade from just the combination of Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift. Not saying that either one is better than either one, but I think the combo of Montgomery and Gibbs is better than the combo of Swift and Jamal Williams. And on Kansas City side, I mean, very solid defensively. I think this is something that people overlook is just how solid their defense is. Although their best defensive player is holding out right now, and there might be a trade involving him. So you have to look at that. If he's out, that's huge for Detroit's side. That really kills their pass rush for one, but two, their run. He is a very versatile weapon on defense. And then we'll look at the other sides here. On Kansas City, pretty much the wide receiver room is revamped from last year. Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney figured to be the 1-2. They will probably not get a crazy amount of snaps of wide receivers. They're probably going to plug and play some of their depth pieces at wide receiver and see what works. For Detroit, their secondary is totally revamped. For a good reason too. Their secondary is really bad. So they add a lot of pieces in their secondary. Other than that, it's pretty much almost the exact same for the box here. And that's just in the nickel and the base. Things do change, but in the nickel, which I imagine we see a decent amount, that's what it'll look like. So I have the over 53.5. I just think both offenses, regardless of kind of the struggles Kansas City, in my opinion, Kansas City's offense might have just because of, filling in Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore for Juju and Hardman at the beginning of the season. But you're also more certain at the running back with Pacheco and McKinnon. You know what you're getting out of them this season. MVS gets another year with the Chiefs. And then Kadarius Toney, if he's healthy, I hope he does, then, is a very good versatile weapon for Kansas City as well. And then just going to Detroit's side, I mentioned all this. Detroit's offense is just very efficient. They're dependent on how amazing their offensive line is for both pass and run blocking. So I see this game just being a shootout, and hopefully once we get closer towards the game, we get some more points. Even though 53.5 is a pretty solid number, it's achievable easily, but hopefully we get some more points for certainty on that. All right, and then the second pick that I have is Falcons minus 3.5. So this line is pretty much stayed from when I got the bet in, so it's still available 3.5 for everyone. And I'll get into it of why. So watching the Panthers offensive line in preseason, they looked very, very, very bad. Bryce Young is going to have a struggle of adapting to having a very bad offensive line his rookie year, and things could change. This offensive line could get it together. I'm just going off of what I saw in the preseason, and they did not look very good. He got pressured a lot. I think he did well, for being a smaller quarterback is a lot of the negative things said about him. But I think he did a good job of handling the height issue, and it was more the offensive line issue. So I think he did a good job. This offense for Carolina is another one that is totally revamped from last year. They get Adam Thielen, DJ Chark is added, Hayden Hurst is added, Miles Sanders is added. They draft Jonathan Mingo, a couple different pieces on the offensive line. It's a total different Carolina Panthers team from last year. And although I think Carolina did a good job, I'll say this, a good job in adding pieces to Bryce Young to get sort of a good evaluation. I'm not going to say like they added pieces to where like he should succeed, because obviously he shouldn't. But you get Adam Thielen, who's been one of the most dependable red zone receivers in the league. Hayden Hurst has been a good blocking and another good pass catching tight end. DJ Chark, another reliable wide receiver. Jonathan Mingo is a rookie wide receiver, so there's not much that we could say as far as NFL experience, only going off college. I think he's a good piece. Will he pan out? That's to be determined. And then they add a good running back in Miles Sanders. Obviously getting away from Christian McCaffrey, but Miles Sanders, when healthy, with that Eagles offensive line, total different offensive line, looked really good. Looked very consistent as a running back, and that's what you want, to take some pressure off the quarterback by getting consistent yards. And with Atlanta's defense, though, they get Campbell, they get Bates, they get Okuda. They get some pieces to definitely help out their defense. I don't think it's a very strong defense, though, right now, in my opinion. They still have Grant in the secondary, too. So their secondary is definitely improved. They add a huge piece in Calais Campbell. Dupree's there. Jarrett's there. Like, they have some pieces to be a good defense, especially of how they want to run their team in general. So we'll switch it and look at the opposite side. So, obviously, I think Carolina still has a good defense. I really do. A very, very good defensive line, in my opinion, at that. J.C. Horn, back healthy. Jeremy Chin, Shaq Thompson. There's some pieces there. But I look at Atlanta's side, and this is where I give Atlanta the big edge. Is one, their offensive line, very good last year. They just didn't have a quarterback, in my opinion. I'm sure others feel the same exact way on that statement. And not saying that Desmond Ridder is going to be the quarterback. I don't think he will, in my opinion, long-term will be that quarterback for Atlanta. But if he could somehow get by with the system that they have in place, just like Ryan Tannehill did for Smith's offense as well, then yeah, this team could be good. And the reason being is you get Drake London back. Obviously healthy, but still returning. Kyle Pitts healthy. They add someone like Mac Hollins, who had some games in Vegas. Some up games, did have some very bad down games as well. But the best piece is Bijan Robinson here. He is such a explosive player. You've heard it from everyone. I'm not going to try to sell you any more than everyone else already has. But we know what Bijan is capable of being one of the best running backs, if not the best running back in the league. And even then, if he gets banged up, right, they still have Tyler Algier, who had a really solid rookie year. And Cordell Patterson is still there as well. So they have depth at the running back position. I wouldn't be surprised to see Cordell used in some aspect in the wide receiver position to get him on the field. We saw what he could be capable of in this offense, of being a very versatile weapon. So don't think this Atlanta offense is going to be bad. I think they're going to be good. It all depends on what Desmond Ridder can do in the passing game. So this is where I give the edge to Atlanta. I think both defenses are probably comparable. But the offenses, I'm going to give the advantage to Atlanta. 3.5. If it was 2.5, I'd feel even better. It's a field goal. That's kind of what you like. 3.5 is asking for more than a field goal, obviously. But I'm going to get the extra point. I'm going to take it. And hopefully get some more points once we get closer to game day. So, like I said, you can go on almost every site and they have -3.5 at really good odds too, -105. Those are good odds. So, now on to pick number 3. All right, and then pick number 3 for you guys is the Jaguars. I got it at -3.5. If you're on PointsBet, you can get it at -4. The rest of the books have it at 4.5. This one was an immediate one after kind of what I saw with the Colts team in general, I kind of look at their roster, and we'll take a look at it here in a second. And um, regardless of the quarterback situation, the roster as a whole is very odd right now. And then the Jonathan Taylor news makes it that much more. I think once Taylor officially gets traded, if he does, I hope he does. I hope the situation just erases itself. The Colts offense is not promising. Is the word I'll use. But let's take a look at the Jaguars offense here. So Trevor Lawrence, I think, took a huge step last year. Even in the playoffs, I mean, that was if the first half you're like, Trevor Lawrence isn't the guy. That's kind of what you get. And then him and the entire Jaguars team stay composed, locked it in, had one of the greatest comebacks ever in football, especially to do that in the playoffs at that. But I think it was a huge step. And now what they do for Trevor Lawrence, their offensive line, yes, I would admit their offensive line is probably their biggest concern to worry about this season. Wide receivers, though, they added Christian Kirk last year. In my opinion, they overpaid. Regardless, very solid for Trevor Lawrence. Travis Etienne, when healthy, amazing. They get Evan Ingram, steps up, another good target. Now they have Calvin Ridley. And yet again, I'm not going to try to upsell you guys more than anything you've already heard, but Calvin Ridley is a monster. I think having that duo of Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk is great. You obviously get Evan Ingram, who is a high-volume tight end, but also another tall, solid piece. And then on that other side is Zay Jones, who had some good games for Jacksonville last year. They add a lot of pieces in that running back room for Jacksonville. Tank Bigsby, Johnson, and Travis Etienne, nonetheless. Regardless, fantasy or not, I think that running back room is very solid and has depth. The wide receivers are good. And then we look at Jacksonville. And what we see here, we'll look in the nickel personnel, not the base. What we see here, right, is a good box, right? Shaq Leonard, hopefully healthy, a key piece in that defense. Forrest Buckner, Pay, like they have pieces here, but their secondary is gone from what they were last year. Look, Dallas Flowers, Kenny Moore II, Baker Jr., Julian Blackmon, I think is probably their best secondary player they have. And then Ryan E. Thomas. Their secondary is very bad. I think any team you're playing, especially if you're targeting in fantasy, you want to target wide receivers against this team. I think if the Colts box, the edges and linebackers can compensate a lot for that bad secondary. But when it comes to it, and they're going to play some good quarterbacks this season, obviously their division isn't good. So I think those are games to where this team can succeed. But this secondary is going to have to step up a lot. A lot of these guys are going to have to take huge steps for this defense to hold into games, because it's on paper right now it does not look good. So that's a huge advantage for Jacksonville there. And then we look at the Colts offense here. I would say the Colts have a very solid offensive line, a good offensive line, but we saw what they were last year. One of the most paid offensive lines in the league, and they did not look good last year overall as a unit. Not just one specific guy or anything like that, but as a unit, they did not look good. Obviously, yet again, a new quarterback for the Colts, Anthony Richardson. I hope he pans out. I really do. I really like these kind of stories. 4th overall pick. Not good college stats and film, just because of the college he went to and what was there. But the Jonathan Taylor situation, Deion Jackson, I would figure, unless a trade happens where a running back goes to the Colts, Deion Jackson will be the RB1 if Taylor is traded. If not, it'll be Taylor, and we don't know what that'll look like. But I like Deion Jackson. Obviously, he's not the same as Jonathan Taylor, but he had some really solid games, really good games when given the opportunity last year. And then we look at the wide receiver room. He's still the same in Alec Pierce and Pittman. You get another year on this team. They draft Josh Downs. The tight end situation, I don't know. I hope it's Jelani Woods. I really hope it's Jelani Woods. A big fan of him, and I hope he's healthy for the season and we get to see what it looks like. But this offense can have its up games. I think they can. Now, granted, everyone compares Justin Fields, and I get it, but you got to realize this is his rookie year. He has a good piece in Michael Pittman. He has another solid piece in Alec Pierce. I think those guys can help him out. But we've seen Michael Pittman have some very shaky games last year, regardless of quarterback play, and Alec Pierce still trying to find his way in this Colts offense, and we don't know what Josh Downs is obviously going to look like. You get someone like Jelani Woods, though, at 6'8". That's a huge target to kind of miss. So that's why I hope he's there as a big speed guy too. His run blocking is his biggest thing. So hopefully he improved on that and is healthy. But for Jacksonville's defense, obviously, Trayvon Walker, Josh Allen, Roy Robinson Harris, Tyson Campbell. This defense is solid. I'm not going to say it's really good or anything, but I think it could be a solid defense. They're going to have their really good games, and in my opinion, I think they're going to have their bad games. But it's how many more of the good games you're going to have than bad games. So this defense, like I said, I think it could be really, really, really good if these guys start to take their next steps. Obviously, having a better offense helps with that because you're not on the field as much. Hopefully, that's what you get out of it. But I just overall give the advantage to Jacksonville. Defense, I give the advantage to, and offense, I give the advantage to. Like I said, I got it at 3.5. It's already jumped up a point on books. I imagine this one will keep moving as well. Especially if Jonathan Taylor does get traded, I think this line moves yet again in favor of Jacksonville. So those are my first 3 bets. These are just we're 10 days out or 9 days out now before the first game, that Thursday night game. So these are my first 3 bets. Hope you guys enjoy, and I will see you in the next one.